Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here. And I humbly thank you for joining me. Today, I'd like to talk about the education system as we know it and the future of our children who are required to participate in this system. Yes, I know this isn't a topic of discussion at the top of the list for those living the silver years, but I wonder if it should be for a variety of reasons that I'll get into. And to clarify, I do know that the name of my channel, The Silver Years, may indicate to some that my focus is on senior life issues, subjects that I may talk about from time to time. My intention overall, however, for this channel is to have a larger focus on sharing the wisdom that comes with age. You know, that seasoned silver wisdom and the life experiences that support it, and how we can use that wisdom and a seasoned senior perspective to improve not only our present reality, but our collective reality moving forward. And this is where our school age children come in. Now, speaking for myself, after putting two daughters through 13 pre college, kindergarten through 12 grade levels in the American school system in three different states and numerous counties and school districts, it was one of the happiest days of my life when my youngest daughter finally graduated from high school. And after more than 20 years, I was done being a parent who had to deal with, in my personal opinion, the agenda based rules and regulations imposed by the school system upon its captive students and their parents by authoritarian and at times inept school administrators and counselors. I was done having to deal with the piles of redundant homework and meaningless busy work assigned by teachers that left no time for life, family, or creative pursuits, and even free playtime. And I know I'm not alone in this because I've interacted with many parents over the years who have expressed a similar sentiment to me. Now, if I felt this way about losing my children and their youth to the demands of the school system, I can only imagine how my children felt about the whole thing, even though they had little to say in the matter. From my experience as a parent, the system spares no one, unless, of course, you're elite enough to be above the system and you have the money and resources to be an exception to the rules and regulations. But this is not the majority I'm talking about here. I was not part of them. I was not part of that minority. I was never an exception to the system. And in my experience, the system spared no one when it came to enforcing its right to indoctrinate my children with their required textbooks and social agendas. And it made damn sure that we complied through attendance records, endless testing requirements, and the fear of CPS intervention or other legally perceived consequences for not playing along. And for those who don't know, CPS stands for Child Protective Services, which is a government sponsored organization that I feel does not protect children at all, but does quite the opposite, since it is a known front for child trafficking. I do have a personal story about CPS, but that's for another day. Now, a quick question comes to mind here. Can any of you tell me the difference between demanding compliance and being confined to a desk in a schoolroom all day with restricted yard time and outright prison life from a jail cell? What's the difference? Anyone? Please share. And let me add, If any of you have ever bought a carton of milk from your school cafeteria, you might have noticed the little disclaimer on that milk carton that reads, "For schools and prisons." So again, the question must be asked, what's really in the milk? And do we want the children of our future consuming it? And why are students and prisoners considered the same in the eyes of the government? Another concern I have has to do with the required textbooks used within the school system under the guise of standardized education. It has become quite clear over the last several years that publisher and government asset Robert Maxwell, who, by the way, was father to Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Jeffrey Epstein's partner in crime. Now, Robert Maxwell was a known child trafficker amongst numerous other unsavory things, and his publishing companies were the publisher of many of the school system's required textbooks. Now, I find this insider manipulation to be problematic and a great cause for questioning the veracity of the information being preached as gospel to us and our children through those textbooks. Oh, and then there's the annual school photos that are taken every fall. On one hand, it was nice as a parent to accumulate those annual school photos as a way to track the growth and evolution of my children and for them to have later in their yearbooks. On the other hand, it's now coming out by way of the Epstein files that the company responsible for taking those annual school photos may have questionable ties, begging the question, who's getting unauthorized access to these images of my child? And are those images being used as a black market shopping catalog for child traffickers? Just asking. Let us not also forget what has happened over the last 6 years in the schools with the gender confusion agenda. Being in California, I saw firsthand how the government moved to strip parents of their rights to know anything when it came to the secretive gender manipulation of their children by school administrators and teachers. The whole thing has been rife with contradiction and confusion. Parents are told that they are legally and financially responsible for their children and their actions, yet their rights over the very children they are supposed to be responsible for is denied when it comes to this crucial life-altering issue, an issue that will impact the long-term health and well-being of their children forevermore. You know, eye doctors won't even do eye surgery on a patient until that patient reaches around 27 years of age, because that's when the eyes stop developing. To consider anything less when it comes to permanently altering the physicality of a developing child who is clearly not yet an adult is unethical and smacks of an agenda dark and sinister. Now, let's talk about all the questionable medical assessments that our captive children are subjected to by the school system when they don't want to sit in a chair at a desk looking at a chalkboard 6 or more hours a day. They are diagnosed as being hyperactive or having ADD, attention deficit disorder, which, by the way, was never a real disorder, according to the very doctor who admitted to making up the label at Big Pharma's request. And this was per his own deathbed confession. Now, this fake diagnosis label was designed as an excuse to drug and medicate our children into compliance. And I won't even dare to delve down the medical intervention hole where what was once called vaccinations is now called biogenics. The new name alone should tell us there is a problem. But in 2020, when the world shut down, the governments apparently became the medical authority over us all. And not with my permission, mind you. I did not give the government permission to be my doctor, to be my medical authority. Just saying. But the government became the medical authority over us in 2020 because they began requiring parents who had children in their school systems to mask up and jab up their young ones, our future generations, with biogenic toxins and genetically altering substances in order to be compliant and remain in school. No exemptions allowed. And yes, this is still happening in California. No proof of biogenics is a barrier to enrollment. Now, please keep in mind, like most things I discuss, this topic is very multi-layered, and what I'm discussing in this video will barely touch on some of those layers. Take my word for none of this and do your own research. My intention is not to convince you of anything, but to encourage you to think beyond the limits of your school system education. My intention here is to also remind us that this issue concerns everyone, not just parents with children in the school system, because we're all products of the school system. We've all been programmed by it through corporate standardization in schooling. And while some of it may have been good and some of it maybe not so good, we've been trained to believe that we need that standardized education to get a good corporate job or whatever else the system demands. We've been programmed to believe that getting an education is a privilege and a gift from the government. But realistically, when does the government gift us with anything without expecting compliance in return? Sorry, folks, there is no free ride when bureaucracy is involved. Now, let me add, too, that I am a huge proponent of acquiring knowledge and learning new things, especially through self education, which means being autodidactic. It means taking responsibility for ourselves and what we put into our minds, being in charge of what we learn, and not in blind acceptance of what the bureaucracy tells us as if that's all we need to know, as if it's the truth. As you can see, this is just a very small snapshot of what parents and children are up against in today's world, and it affects us all. These parents I'm talking about here are our children, and their children are our grandchildren and great grandchildren. They are the future. And whether one agrees with me or not, that is the future we should be investing our time, wisdom, and energy in. Parents have a lot on their plate, especially with the financial and time demands required by the school system piled on top. I suppose in one way it's a trade off. Actually, it's designed to be that way. The school acts like the village babysitter who doesn't have to be paid, because while the parents are away at work, their children are in the care of the government and being molded by the larger agenda. And it doesn't end when those exhausted parents get home from work every night, lest we forget about the ridiculous piles of homework that has to get done before bedtime. Clearly, it's time, as a society, for us to rethink how we can create a better way to support the education of our future generations. A better way does exist, and we will need to create it together without bureaucratic involvement. Unless, of course, we want AI robots teaching our children Because according to the latest announcement by Melania Trump, our children are going to be taught to be brilliant by AI robots beginning sometime this year. This AI teacher government program is the result of Melania's collaboration with Brigitte Macron of France, who, by the way, is a known pederast and child groomer. Really, what's next? We'll be told that our children will need to be neuralinked with chips implanted in their brains, like Elon perhaps, so that they can link up with their new AI robot teacher in order to download the lesson plan. Because if you don't think this agenda is being rolled out before your very eyes, please think again. Without even getting into the implications this can have for the future role of human teachers and the negative emotional effects of AI rage, something I termed and I discussed in my video, Some Thoughts on Artificial Intelligence. I'll put a link if you'd like to watch that. I can only wonder how an AI robot is going to teach my grandchildren how to have empathy, be compassionate, how to self regulate their emotional bodies, how to experience the health benefits of human connection and social interaction, or how to connect with nature and the power of tactile interaction and personal touch. Basically, how to be human, all while learning the benefits of reading, writing, and arithmetic. In our polarized world, we'll always have contrasts to consider. And while the so called Western world attempts to march us full steam into AI dominance, there are other countries that feel the need to pull back from it within the classroom. Say, for example, the Scandinavian country of Sweden, which has recently announced that it will be getting rid of the two-dimensional black plasma screens in digital AI teaching as it returns to tactile, traditional teaching, which means writing by hand with pencils and paper, no keyboards. Now, for those of us living the silver years, we have the ability, using our wisdom and life experiences, to help our children, who are today's parents, and our grandchildren find the gaps in between, the non compliant workarounds, the cracks to go through, as we help to support and protect our bloodlines while creating new ways forward for the children of our future who are trapped and imprisoned in an educational system designed to enslave us even further than we already are. All generations living will need to pull together to collaborate on solutions that protect our children and their learning experiences in order to create a better, more balanced future for everyone. It seems now that it's time to create a new village. Now, as I wind down here, I want to leave you with a loaded question to ponder, as I like to do. If you were to plan for the success of the next 7 generations, how would you educate your legacy today? Please leave your comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.